6 hours. That's all the time Sarah Chun had to save a dying Marine. The kidney he needed was 340 miles away in Sacramento. The transplant team said it was impossible to retrieve in time. Insurance denied emergency transport. Hospital administration refused to take the risk. But Sarah had something they didn't. A 15-year-old promise from a man most people crossed the street to avoid. A Hell's Angel who owed her family a debt. At midnight, she made the call. By dawn, 217 leather-clad riders would shatter every rule in the medical system and rewrite what impossible really means. If this story grips you, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps us continue sharing stories that restore faith. At 11:43 p.m. on October 17th, Sarah Chin's hands were shaking so hard she could barely dial the number. 22 years as a nurse at St. Michael's Virginia Hospital in Portland, Oregon, and she'd never felt this helpless. In room 412, Robert Bull Morrison lay dying. 62 years old, Marine veteran, Gulf War, stage 5 kidney failure. His blood pressure read 180/110. His creatinine level had spiked to 8.2 when it should have been under 1.5. His daughter Amy had been sleeping in that chair beside him for 72 hours straight, holding his hand, whispering prayers he could barely hear anymore. 6 hours. That's all the time they had before the dialysis option expired completely. After that, Bull's body would shut down. But there was a kidney, a perfect match, 340 miles away in Sacramento. The transplant coordinator had rejected it. Not enough priority points, they said. Insurance denied emergency transport. Experimental routing, they claimed. Hospital administration refused to take the liability. Too much risk. The medical helicopter was grounded. Storm conditions. Every official channel had slammed shut. Every door locked. Every hope extinguished. Except one. Sarah reached in her wallet and pulled out a grease-stained napkin. 15 years old. A phone number written in blue ink. Below it, 3 words. For emergencies only. And a name. Ironside. To understand why Sarah had that number, we need to go back 15 years. 2009. Her brother Tommy was 19 years old. A promising football player whose career ended with a shattered knee and a prescription for opioids that became an addiction. On a freezing February night, Tommy was found unconscious in an alley behind a dive bar in East Portland. It was 2 in the morning. 6 people had walked past him. 6 people had seen a kid dying on the concrete and kept walking. The 7th person was Marcus Ironside Vega, road captain for the Hells Angels. He didn't keep walking. He called 911. He performed CPR for 8 minutes until the ambulance arrived. He stayed at the hospital until Sarah and her parents showed up at 4 in the morning. He never asked for recognition, never asked for thanks. Sarah found him in the hospital cafeteria at dawn, drinking black coffee, still wearing his leather jacket with the patches removed. "Why did you help him?" she asked. Marcus looked at her with eyes that had seen too much and said, "Because someone helped me once when I was that kid, and because nobody deserves to die alone in an alley." He slid a napkin across the table. "A phone number. If your family ever needs something the system can't provide, call this number. Just once. That's the debt." Tommy is 12 years sober now, a youth counselor in Beaverton. Sarah had kept that napkin in her wallet for 5,478 days. She had sworn she'd never use it. But watching Bull's oxygen levels drop, she realized some promises were meant to be broken. Sarah stepped into the supply closet, the only private space on the entire floor. Her hands were still shaking as she smoothed the coffee-stained napkin against a metal shelf. She dialed. 3 rings. Then a voice. Deep. Rough. "Yeah." Sarah's throat tightened. "Is this Ironside?" "This is Sarah Chun. You saved my brother Tommy 15 years ago. You said to call if I ever needed something the system couldn't provide." There was a pause. Then the voice changed. Alert. Focused. "I remember. What do you need?" Sarah told him everything. The Marine. The kidney in Sacramento. The 6-hour window. The system that had failed them at every turn. "I need someone who can get that organ to Portland in time. I need someone the rules don't apply to." Silence. Long and heavy. Then Marcus spoke. "What's the veteran's name?" "Robert Morrison. They call him Bull." Another silence. Even longer this time. "Bull Morrison. 1st Battalion. 7th Marines?" Sarah checked the chart. Yes. How did you know? Because he pulled me out of a burning Humvee in Fallujah. Give me the details. What Sarah didn't know was that Marcus's phone call was about to activate a network that moved faster than any official system. Because when a Marine needs help, brothers don't ask permission. They ask how fast. Marcus hung up at 11:51 p.m. His first call went to Diesel, president of the Portland chapter. We need a mercy run. Marine down. Kidney retrieval from Sacramento. 340 miles. Storm conditions. 6-hour window. Diesel didn't hesitate. I'll make the calls. 11:52 p.m. The text chain lit up across Oregon and Northern California. Code red. Marine down. Oregon run. 11:54 p.m. Roadhawk responded. Former Army medic who knew Oregon transport protocols inside and out. 11:55 p.m. Wrench. Mechanic already prepping bikes for storm riding. 11:56 p.m. Phoenix. Former ICU nurse, now ride captain. 11:58 p.m. Ghost. The man who knew every back road between Portland and Sacramento. They weren't asking for volunteers. They were stating facts, letting brothers choose. Within 8 minutes, 43 responses flooded in. Within 15 minutes, 89 riders confirmed. Within 20 minutes, 217 bikers were pulling on leather in the rain. They divided into specialized teams. Phoenix and Roadhawk handled medical protocols. Ghost and Tracker managed GPS and police scanner monitoring. Hammer and Steel formed security, ready to clear intersections if needed. Pixel coordinated real-time updates with the hospital. Military precision meeting brotherhood loyalty. If you believe some debts can never be measured in dollars, hit that like button. This is about to get intense. While the bikers were gearing up, inside St. Michael's, Sarah was making another call. One that could get her fired. But if you're already breaking rules, you might as well break the big ones. Sarah called Dr. Helena Rourke at home. Midnight. The transplant surgeon answered on the second ring, her voice thick with sleep. Helena, I need you to prep or 3. We're getting Bull's kidney. There was a pause. Sarah, the coordinator, rejected that match. I know. I found another way. What way? Insurance won't cover unofficial transport. I'm not going through insurance. The pause grew longer, heavier. Sarah, if you're doing what I think you're doing, you could lose everything. I'm calling in a 15-year-old debt. Can you be ready in 4 hours? Helena sat up in bed. Her medical license was on the line. Sarah's nursing career would be finished if this failed. The hospital could be sued for unauthorized transplant. But Bull Morrison had maybe 8 hours of viable life left. Helena looked at the photo on her nightstand. Her father, Marine, 3rd Infantry Division. He had died waiting for VA approval for experimental treatment that might have saved him. She made her choice. I'll have the team ready. But Sarah, if this goes sideways, it won't. These men don't fail. How do you know? Because one of them is the reason my brother is alive. And they're doing this for one of their own. 15 minutes later, Night Administrator Lisa Carver saw or 3 lighting up on the system. She called Sarah immediately. What's happening in or 3? Morrison transplant. That was denied. Who authorized this? I did. You don't have that authority. Then fire me in the morning. But that Marine is getting his kidney tonight. Sarah, if you bring an organ into this hospital through unofficial channels, the liability alone could. Sarah hung up. Lisa Carver stared at her phone. She had a choice. Call security and stop this. Or do something she hadn't done in 20 years of hospital administration. Trust that sometimes the right thing isn't the legal thing. What she did next would either make her a hero or end her career. But 340 miles south, the real risk was just beginning. 12:47 a.m. 31 motorcycles rolled into the parking lot of UC Davis Medical Center in Sacramento. The advance team, Phoenix and Roadhawk, dismounted, carrying proper medical credentials. The rest formed a silent vigil in the rain-soaked lot. Inside, Night Administrator Dr. Kevin Walsh looked up from his paperwork as 2 leather-clad figures approached his desk. You're not on the approved transport list. Phoenix pulled out his credentials. We're independent medical couriers, licensed and certified. Walsh shook his head. This kidney is allocated to St. Michael's, Portland, but insurance denied transport authorization. Without proper codes, transport company certification, I can't release this organ. Roadhawk leaned forward. We have authorization from the patient's family and receiving surgeon. That's not how the system works. I need insurance codes. Documentation. Walsh's voice was firm, but his eyes betrayed uncertainty. Outside, 31 bikers waited in the rain. Inside, the organ viability clock was ticking. Kidneys remained viable 24 to 36 hours under cold ischemia conditions. This one was already at 6 hours. Phoenix made a call to Marcus. Marcus made a call to Amy Morrison. 2 minutes later, Walsh's phone rang. The voice on the other end was steel wrapped in tears. Dr. Walsh, this is Amy Morrison. That's my father's kidney. He's dying. These people are trying to save him. If you don't release that organ, I will personally sue you, this hospital, and every administrator who let bureaucracy kill a Marine. Walsh tried to interrupt. Miss Morrison, I understand your frustration, but protocol requires. My father has 8 hours left to live. Your protocol can wait until he's alive. Release the kidney. Now. Walsh looked at the transplant coordinator standing nearby. The coordinator shrugged. Her consent as next of kin overrides insurance requirements. Walsh signed the release form. Against my medical recommendation, but good luck. 1:14 a.m. Phoenix and Roadhawk received the organ in a specialized triple-sealed cooler, temperature monitors attached. Phoenix carried it like a newborn. They walked through the automatic doors to the parking lot. 31 engines fired up in perfect synchronization. Ghost's voice crackled over the radio. Package secured. Route is clear. Let's bring Bull home. If you can't stand when paperwork matters more than people, comment brotherhood over bureaucracy. The ride north should have taken 5 hours in good conditions. But conditions weren't good, and they didn't have 5 hours. What happened next was part precision, part miracle, and entirely illegal. Interstate 5 North. The California-Oregon corridor. 40-mile-per-hour winds. Driving rain. Visibility under 100 yards. Outside temperature 38 degrees. The organ had to stay between 32 and 39 degrees Fahrenheit. They were riding the edge of impossible. Ghost and Tracker led navigation. Phoenix Road Center, the cooler strapped to his chest, maximum protection. Roadhawk flanked him as medical backup. 28 bikes formed a protective box formation around them, rotating positions every 20 miles to manage fatigue. 1:47 a.m. A California Highway Patrol cruiser clocked the convoy at 78 miles per hour in a 65 zone. Officer Ramirez pulled ahead to intercept. Ghost's radio crackled. We got company. Ramirez stepped out of his vehicle and saw 31 soaked bikers idling in formation. You boys know you're doing 78 in a 65? In a storm? Ghost killed his engine. Officer, we're transporting a kidney for a dying Marine. We've got 3 hours to cover 210 miles. You got paperwork for that? Phoenix dismounted, opened the medical cooler, showed the temperature gauges, the official organ tags, the Sacramento hospital seals. Ramirez stared at the cooler, then at the bikers. Rain hammered his hood. My dad was a Marine. What unit? 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, sir. The pause stretched long. Ramirez straightened. I'll radio ahead. You get him that kidney. But I didn't see you speed. Understand? Understood, sir. Ramirez saluted. Got back in his cruiser. His lights flashed once. He proceeded north ahead of them, clearing the way. 2:23 a.m. Wrench's bike threw its chain 90 miles from Portland. He waved the convoy on. Go. Don't stop. They didn't. Wrench stayed in the rain with his disabled bike. Remember when I said brotherhood doesn't fail? Wrench just proved sometimes brotherhood means being left behind so others can succeed. 2:51 a.m. Oregon border. Ramirez had radioed ahead. Portland police were waiting at city limits. Not to arrest, to escort. 4 squad cars, lights flashing, clearing the highway. 31 motorcycles and 4 police cars racing through Portland at 3 in the morning. The system can work when humans remember why it exists. 3:08 a.m. The thunder of engines rolled into St. Michael's, Virginia hospital. Security alerted administration immediately. Lisa Carver, the administrator Sarah had hung up on, walked to the window. She saw 31 motorcycles and 4 police escorts pulling into the emergency bay. Phoenix dismounted, carrying the cooler like crown jewels. Sarah ran out into the rain. Phoenix opened the cooler, checked the temperature. 34.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Perfect. Time in transport, 4 hours and 54 minutes. He handed it to Sarah. Bull Morrison's kidney. Delivered as promised. Sarah was crying. I don't know how to thank you. Phoenix shook his head. Thank us by saving that Marine. Dr. Helena Rourke appeared. She took the cooler, examined the organ through the clear panel. Organ looks perfect. Or is ready. We're going now. She looked at Phoenix. You just did in 5 hours what the system said was impossible. Ma'am, we didn't do anything impossible. We just didn't ask permission to do what was right. Lisa Carver stood in the doorway. She could still stop this. No official approval had been granted. She looked toward Bull's room. Amy crying, holding her father's hand. She looked at Sarah, career on the line for compassion. She looked at the bikers, soaked, exhausted, asking nothing in return. Lisa pulled out her phone, called the OR. Transplant is approved. Proceed immediately. Sarah turned. But you said. I said I'd fire you in the morning. It's still night. Now, get that kidney to surgery. 3:14 a.m. Bull was wheeled into surgery. 3:29 a.m. Incision. 5:43 a.m. Kidney perfused successfully. 6:02 a.m. Vital signs stabilizing. If you believe rules should serve people, not the other way around, smash that subscribe button. Because what happened next proved this story was bigger than one kidney. The surgical waiting room. 3:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. 31 bikers refused to leave. Security approached. No large groups in the waiting room. Diesel looked up. We're not a group. We're family. And we wait for family. Lisa Carver overrode security. Let them stay. Phoenix was teaching a young resident about field medicine protocols. Ghost was telling Amy stories about her father's service in the Gulf. Roadhawk was showing photos from Fallujah, the day Bull saved Marcus from that burning Humvee. Wrench arrived, soaked and limping, having hitchhiked from his breakdown site. Do we make it? Tracker smiled. Surgery's still going. Looking good. Other patients' families were watching from across the room. Night shift nurses, initially nervous, started bringing coffee. A security guard, himself a Marine veteran from 2nd Battalion, stood in the corner quietly crying. Someone had tipped off the local news. A reporter and cameraman arrived just after 5 a.m. The reporter approached Diesel. So you're Hell's Angels? Doing charity work? Diesel shook his head. We're not doing charity. We're paying debts. Bull Morrison saved one of ours. Marcus Ironside Vega. Fallujah, 2004. Marcus saved Sarah's brother in 2009. Sarah saved Bull tonight. That's not charity. That's family. The reporter pressed. So this was all about one Marine? Go step forward. No, this was about what happens when the system says no to someone who deserves yes. About how brotherhood doesn't end when you take off the uniform or the patch. Remember Sarah's 15-year-old napkin? That crumpled promise? It just saved a life. But it was about to start something bigger. 6:08 a.m. Dr. Rourke pushed through the doors, still in surgical gear, exhausted but smiling. The kidney is functioning. Bull is stable. He's going to make it. Amy collapsed into Ghost's arms, sobbing. The waiting room erupted in quiet celebration. This was still a hospital. The bikers didn't cheer. They nodded. Job done. 6 months later, Bull Morrison made a full recovery. Kidney function at 87%, excellent for a transplant. He was back home with Amy and his grandchildren. He invited Marcus to his first family dinner. I pulled you out of fire. You pulled me back from death. We're even. Marcus smiled. Marines and angels. We don't leave people behind. Sarah Chin wasn't fired. The hospital board reviewed her case and created a new emergency compassion protocol, allowing nurses to override denials in life-threatening situations with dual physician approval. Sarah became patient advocate liaison. The napkin? Framed in her office. Lisa Carver was promoted to chief operating officer. Her first initiative was a partnership program with veteran organizations for transplant advocacy. She told the board, I learned that night that good administration means knowing when to enforce rules and when to enforce humanity. The story went viral. The bikers weren't seeking fame. but it found them. The result was Riders for Life, a program where 217 bikers across Oregon and Washington now volunteer as emergency medical transport for organ denial cases. Fully coordinated with hospitals. Fully legal. Insurance approved. In 6 months, 14 successful transports. 14 lives saved. Then came the call that changed everything. Dr. Walsh, the Sacramento administrator who had initially resisted, called Lisa Carver. Your people's transport time beat our official service by 90 minutes. I want to learn how. 3 California hospitals now have rapid response rider programs. Former outlaws now officially partnered with the medical establishment. Redemption became revolution. If you believe that when the system fails, people shouldn't have to fail with it. If you stand with those who choose compassion over bureaucracy. If you think brotherhood matters more than patches or prejudice, then I need you to do 3 things. First, subscribe to this channel because there are more stories like this that the world needs to hear. Stories that prove humanity still wins. Second, comment brotherhood over bureaucracy if you're on the side of people like Sarah, Marcus, and Bull. Let's show the world how many of us believe rules should serve life, not prevent it. Third, share this video with someone who's ever felt failed by a system, because sometimes the only way things change is when enough people say this isn't good enough. The Hells Angels didn't ask for permission to save Bull Morrison. They asked how fast can we ride, and that made all the difference. At 11:43 p.m. on October 17th, Sarah Chun made a phone call that could have ended her career. Instead, it started a movement, because sometimes the most illegal thing you can do is the most right. And sometimes the scariest people in the room are the angels you didn't know you needed.